All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to No Final Bell. Um, of course, we have NWA Impact in AEW talk as always. Um,
Yeah.
well, we had Fyter Fest with AEW. Title did change hands. We will recap that. Of course, we get some more stuff in the whole Eddie Kingston and Chris Jericho saga. We get, more matches heading into Death Bay for Dishonor. Um, and also, of course, Dynamite Rampage for the week. But as always, Marty starts us off before we get there.
Yeah. So, NWA, Race to the Chase is underway. We started with Tom Latimer and Chris Adonis. It was a very back and forth match, which Tom Latimer advances. And I guess Mike Knox has received a bye and is going straight to the Fatal 4-Way match to determine the number one contender. We go backstage with Kerry Morton. He has seemingly accepted Homicide's offer for a championship match at NWA 74 for the junior heavyweight title if Homicide is still the champion by that time. Back to in-ring action. Brian Myers beat Pope to advance in Race to the Chase, albeit under some controversial circumstances as his foot was under the bottom rope when the referee counted the pinfall. And before we get to the final Race to the Chase match, we have some women's action. Kylan King beats Allison Kay. Could we see this lead to a rematch against Camille for the title at NWA 74? It's entirely possible. Then, in the main event, Tim Storm. The ban has been lifted. He is in the Race to the Chase. Could we see him defeat Nick Aldis to get one step closer to being the number one contender for that NWA World Heavyweight Championship? He was this close, man. Nick Aldis is smart. Nick Aldis got under the skin of Tim Storm, kept slapping him right across the face. It only angered Tim Storm. It angered him enough. Goes for the low blow. The referee was still down, but he was on the outside. He recovered enough to see Tim Storm low blow Nick Aldis. Tim Storm, and the referee says, hey, wait a minute. Ring the bell. No. So Tim Storm gets disqualified in this match against Nick Aldis. Aldis advances in the Race to the Chase and will compete in a fatal four-way against Brian Myers, Tom Latimer, and Mike Knox. That's it for NWA. We start off Impact with the Motor City Machine Guns and Josh Alexander versus BBD. Machine Guns and Alexander beat BBD, and as Sabin is handing Josh the belt, Sabin and Shelley are eyeing it. Could this lead to a title match between Sabin and Alexander, this time for the world title? Well, we now know that next week on the show, Chris Sabin will go up against Alex Shelley. The winner becomes the number one contender and challenges Josh Alexander at Emergence on August 12th for the Impact World Championship.
And honestly, I really do think it's going to be Alex Shelley that's going to beat Chris Sabin this time. I think it's Alex Shelley's time to go after the world title. It would be nice to see him beat Josh Alexander, but I don't know if it's the right time for him to win the world title right now, as Josh just did win it back. But I really do think that Alex Shelley will get the opportunity to face off against Josh Alexander for the world title. Chris Sabin's already been a world champion in Impact. It would be nice to see him compete for it again, but I think you should give it to Alex Shelley.
We'll see what happens with that match next week. But then we get down to Steve Maclin and James Storm. Steve Maclin beats James Storm. And after the match, Sami Callihan comes to the ring to beat Maclin down, but Maclin outsmarted him. The lights went out. Callihan appeared in the ring. Callihan was ready to beat down Maclin, and he's like, hey, where did he go? Maclin is on the outside. He's just looking at Sami. He knew he was coming. That's what outsmarted him. Then we get to Chelsea Green versus Mickey James. And remember, for that match, no one is allowed at ringside. So, Chelsea Green beats Mickey James with her feet on the ropes. So, there is that. And then we have Ty Valkyrie and Rosemary taking a trip to the Undead Realm. They were there in search of Havoc, only to find Jessica? Certainly interesting. Now we get into Masha Slamovich and Tennille Dashwood. Masha beats Tennille, as is to be expected. Next week, Speedball Mike Bailey will clash with Diener for the X Division title. And backstage, Gia Miller catches up with Mickey James, who says, "You're only as good as your last match," and is heading home. Was this Mickey's swan song? I certainly hope not.
I don't think so, honestly. But then again, she's had a very lengthy pro wrestling career, so who really knows? Maybe she wants to spend more time being a mom than being on the road. So
Which is certainly respectable, but at the same time, I still feel like she has a lot left to give to pro wrestling, and she has a lot left in the tank. But we'll have to see. Also, next week, Deonna Purrazzo and Chelsea Green will face off against Jordan Grace and Mia Yim. And before their match, as Honor No More make their way to the ring for their main event match against Bullet Club, Heath sneak attacks Vincent on the stage. Will that play into the main event match? Will it throw off Honor No More? It certainly seemed to, but it ultimately did not mean a damn thing, as Honor No More was able to beat Bullet Club.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we got to Fyter Fest Night 1. It's kind of weird before I really go into this. Apparently, there's supposed to be 4 weeks of Fyter Fest. Then Tony Schiavone's like, well, a couple of weeks of Fyter Fest. So what is it? Is it 4 weeks of Fyter Fest or is it 2 weeks of Fyter Fest? Like, I'm getting confused here.
I don't know, man.
Somebody needs to clarify this. I guess we'll only find out. Usually it's supposed to be Fyter Fest and then it leads into the Fight for the Fallen. So, I don't know if we're even going to get Fight for the Fallen at this point, if we're just going to get 4 weeks of Fyter Fest. Either way.
If we do, we do. If we don't, we don't. Either way, I'm just excited for more AEW Pro Wrestling.
Exactly. So, going into the very first match of the night, we get Wardlow, who is now, newly crowned TNT champion, going up against Orange Cassidy, who did deserve a title opportunity. But man, Orange Cassidy has a lot of momentum on his side. So does Wardlow. But fortunately, it was all to waste as Orange Cassidy gets beaten by Wardlow with the powerbomb to retain the TNT Championship. And then after the match, Wardlow fist bumps Orange Cassidy, showing him some respect, as he really should. Orange
Cassidy can hang with the best of them.
Yes, he can.
I mean, he had a great showing against Will Ospreay at Forbidden Door, so that should certainly prove that.
No, the real question I have here is, how long is it before Orange Cassidy wins a title in AEW?
Who's to say it's not even AEW that he wins a championship? Who's to say that he couldn't be a champion in New Japan?
Yeah, but I said in AEW. How long before they decide, you know what, the TNT title deserves to be in Orange Cassidy's hands?
I mean, as much as I love Orange Cassidy, and as much as I know the fans love Orange Cassidy, I just don't see him being a champion in, It's not to say I couldn't see him being champion eventually. It's just that, like, I don't know. Like, I don't even know how, like, hardcore fans would react to Orange Cassidy being a champion in AEW.
Well, personally, I could see him being, a TNT champion. I never really
And
said world champion. I see
that's the
him as
thing too. I
TNT
don't.
champion.
That's the thing too. Don't get it twisted. It's not. I'm not saying that I don't want to see Orange Cassidy as a champion. I just like. I don't know. Something about it is like. I just don't know how well he would work as a champion in like a big promotion like AEW.
I think it would work out, honestly, because the momentum is surely on his side. Yeah, it derailed a little bit with the loss to Wardlow, but let me tell you something. With a lot of matches, won under his belt, after this loss would definitely propel him. Um, Wardlow could lose to anybody at this point, but having him as TNT champion, I would hope that it could propel him to being the world champion eventually. Um, Before we move on, there has been an insight that CM Punk is supposed to be coming back sooner than later. Could even come up, be at All Out or
Full Gear.
later this year.
If it's All Out, then that would be certainly a
Honestly,
welcome
I already stated I
hometown
really do
reunion.
think that he's going to come back at All Out, face off against Jon Moxley for, the undisputed heavyweight title. But if I was to pick the winner of a match like that, I've had to go with Jon Moxley. Moxley as champion, as world champion right now, makes a little bit more sense than CM Punk. Um, yeah, it would suck to have CM Punk lose, and then what do you do with him? Well, you put him in the TNT title picture. I think that's what you do with him. If he was to lose the world title to Jon Moxley, you put him in a TNT title picture. Yeah, I get it. Jon Moxley losing also kind of derails him, and then you're like, what do you do with him afterwards? Well, you can have him with the Blackpool Combat Club. You can have him in the tag team title picture. There's stuff to do with him. CM Punk more so, yeah, he loses the title, and then what you do with him? Well, you put him in the TNT title picture. So there's a few things that you can do with each man, but it's kind of tough to have them both lose. But moving forward, the Bastard Pack goes up against Shota Umino at Rev Pro. It's really no surprise. You really don't want to have the Bastard Pack losing the All Atlantic Championship right away. He does beat Shota Umino at Rev Pro to retain the All Atlantic Championship.
The full match is actually on Dark, but they showed highlights on Dynamite.
Yes. Now,
eventually, I do want to get around to actually watching the full match. I still have not watched the full match yet, but I'm sure it was amazing. So,
right. Now, this is what I have to say about the All Atlantic Championship. Please have it defended actually on the main show. It should be a main, like it's a big title. It's a new title.
it's
You want to start
title.
you want to start getting it more media attention and all the other stuff, and showcase it on your main shows. To have it, in other promotions and defend it, cool. It's all fine and dandy and everything, but kind of brings down the value of it. Because, like, yeah, you gave it to Pac, but did you just give it to Pac so then you'd be like, well, Pac now is a champion and you got a title there. Congratulations, Pac. Because you look at it now, it's like, well, you have that, but he could be going after the TNT title. He could be pushing him to the world title. Like, he's a big enough star that he could, go after those titles. No, you just give him the All Atlantic Championship, and then what? So I'm hoping that they can do more with that championship than just basically give it to a superstar and do absolutely nothing with it.
Well, I don't really think they're doing nothing with it. I just think it's more so the whole purpose of the title was to be an interpromotional title defended across multiple promotions overseas.
Probably.
Which is a great concept in theory, and it seems to actually be working for the most part, but
All right,
we'll have to stick around.
Going forward, we can continue with the Jericho and Eddie Kingston saga. Jericho comes out to address the crowd. Stays out there as not just the wizard or any kind of Chris Jericho. He's out there as Jericho, the living legend. And
Which
Eddie
Ric Flair actually took offense to it, but
and Eddie Kingston's superior says he isn't a liar, or that he is. Says that Eddie Kingston's a liar and confused. Everything he does for friendship turns to dust. Took everyone out for all of his friends. Says he needs to take better care of his chicks. Referring to Ruby Soho when he got taken care of, beaten down by Ty Conti, and Chris Jericho putting her arm into the car door there. As how many barbed wire matches he has won, which has been none. Chris Jericho says he has won one at the age of 22 and felt pleasure from it, which, Chris, I know it's TV-14, but chill. Chill. Says he's jealous. Says that Eddie Kingston is jealous of his success. Says Eddie Kingston is facing a Painmaker and is undefeated as a persona in AEW, which is very much true. Final fight in the saga says he can go in his hole after the match with all the demons he's dealt with because he's not on his level. Both men want the other to shed blood. Calls Eddie a loser. Thoughts? It's gonna be a killer match. Night 2 of Fyter Fest is going to be the main event is going to be the Barbed Wire Anywhere match. If you had to choose between Eddie Kingston and Chris Jericho, Eddie Kingston already had the one up. I would have to go with Chris Jericho. I think Chris Jericho is going to get the last laugh against Eddie Kingston and this end the whole feud between Eddie Kingston and Chris Jericho.
And even then, he said it himself. He is undefeated as the Painmaker, so he's going to get another win as the Painmaker.
Eddie Kingston wants the most violent Chris Jericho, which you better be careful what you wish for, Eddie, because Chris Jericho is going to be coming out. You think Chris Jericho, the Joker, is one thing. Chris Jericho, the Painmaker, it's a whole different story. Look at what he did in New Japan. That should be a prime example of what kind of Chris Jericho you're going to get.
That was also just a way to take a jab at Evil. So, which I believe is who he won the IWGP Intercontinental Championship from, but I could be wrong. It could have been Naito for all I know.
Because he wants the most violent because he's going to pay and wants to hurt him and enjoy it. So these two men want to beat the living shit out of each other. Of course, Fyter Fest Night 2 is going to give the most time to this match.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping it's going to be a good back and forth contest. There's going to be bloodshed. I mean, did you expect anything else from a Barbed Wire Anywhere match? I didn't.
It's going to be a death match, man. It's funny, too, because, initially they were advertising it as a death match. Now they're, shying away from calling it a death match, probably because of the sponsors and the network itself.
Yeah, probably, but it's going to be a crazy match. These two men are going to literally beat the living crap out of each other. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm sure everybody that is watching this is looking forward to it. So please bring on the action there, Eddie Kingston and Chris Jericho. So going forward, Jon Moxley and Konosuke Takeshita face off in a very amazing back and forth contest. I've already talked to Marty about Konosuke Takeshita. Before this show and everything, that he is set out to be one hell of a big star for AEW. The only thing is, I just don't know if Tony Khan and AEW and all the EVPs see it that way. But at least he's getting his opportunities to face up against big talent and showing that he can actually stand toe to toe with anybody that he goes toe to toe against. So Um, but unfortunately, Jon Moxley, being the interim World Heavyweight Champion, you're not going to have him lose anytime now, right now. The momentum's on his side. He's a world champion. He's going to beat anybody that comes his way. He beats Konosuke Takeshita. But are we very surprised about that? I mean, it would have been nice to have Konosuke Takeshita because it's a eliminatory match. So I'm pretty sure what that meant is that if Takeshita did beat Jon Moxley, the next time they would face off against each other would be for the World Heavyweight Championship. I think it's a wasted opportunity to not have
Yeah.
Takeshita win this match because I think he's well deserving of a title opportunity, even if it's like him losing to Jon Moxley for the world title. Still, give him an opportunity. Why did you have him lose in this eliminator match? Okay,
Yeah,
and second off, why did you call it an eliminator match? That's what I want. That's what I'm getting confused about.
yeah, I don't
You
know.
just call, it's an AEW World Title eliminator match. Like, why? Like, we all knew it was probably going to be Jon Moxley going to beat Takeshita. So to have it called that is just kind of like made me a little confused because usually in those kind of matches, you have the opponent or the challenger win, then face off in the number one contenders match. Basically a number one contender match. If you beat Jon Moxley, you get a title opportunity. This was a wasted effort. I really do think that Konosuke Takeshita should have won the match against Jon Moxley to get a title opportunity because I think he's very well deserving of it. Um, that's where I think that you did it a little wrong, Tony Khan. You should have had him win. Could have been an opportunity to have them go really at each other for the world title. So it makes me a little ashamed that that didn't happen. But going forward, Luchasaurus faces off against Griff Garrison and beats him. Were we shocked there? I mean, Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr. haven't really done that much. Then, after the match, Luchasaurus beats down Griff Garrison and then chokeslams Brian Pillman Jr. on top of Griff through the table. Luchasaurus is just on a tear. When the hell are we going to see Jungle Boy back?
They're probably saving it for All Out, if anything.
I'm ready. Because eventually it's going to be Luchasaurus versus Jungle Boy at some point. Or you're going to see Matt Hardy and Jungle Boy against Christian Cage and Luchasaurus. I don't know. You're going to see something. But eventually you're going to see Jungle Boy back in the thing and going up against his... You know what I would be okay with? Luchasaurus turning his back on Christian Cage, the rejoin with Jungle Boy, and beating down Christian
I don't know if
Cage.
that's going to happen, actually, to tell you the truth.
Because to have Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus kind of break apart absolutely made no sense. Because they were great as, Jurassic Express. Because right now you haven't had Jungle Boy on TV. He could be good as a great singles competitor. So could Luchasaurus. But to have Luchasaurus paired with Christian Cage, what are you really doing with him? I don't want to crap on AEW because I love AEW better than WWE, but right now there's some questionable things that are happening right now. That absolutely make kind of no sense, but again, it is what it is. Then, of course, we get Claudio Castagnoli and Jake Hager, and they beat the living crap out of each other. But you're of course going to give the momentum to the guy that just came into the business. Claudio does beat Jake Hager. Claudio is definitely somebody that I think should eventually get a TNT title opportunity. I think he's the one man that can actually beat Wardlow for the TNT title and have a good reign for it. So,
if not the TNT title,
please give him the world title eventually. He deserves a world title opportunity. But There's
We
always
will
a
get
but.
into that. We will
Um,
get into that
we will definitely get into that.
with Claudio.
Of course, going forward, Serena Deeb and Anna Jay go up against each other. Serena Deeb does beat Anna Jay, and then Mercedes Martinez saves Anna Jay from Deeb, who will win when they face off at Death Before Dishonor.
I seriously think it might be Serena.
I think that Serena Deeb makes the most sense, but she should get more opportunities in AEW
I
too.
agree.
So, as much as I would love to see Serena Deeb being the ROH Women's World Champion, give her more opportunities for that kind of championship in AEW, especially since she's actually signed to AEW. She's not signed to freaking ROH.
Well, I mean, to be fair, she was signed to AEW when she won the NWA Women's World Title.
So,
So,
but
you know,
who knows? I really do think that Serena Deeb could beat Mercedes Martinez, but I wouldn't be shocked if Mercedes Martinez retained too. So, um, man, what a crazy main event! Holy shit! 5 stars. That's my rating for that match. I don't give a shit what Meltzer has to say at all. He's probably not going to give it a 5 star rating. I'm giving it a 5 star rating because let me tell you something. These 3 tag teams showcase that there's a future for all 3 of these tag teams in the AEW tag team division. Um, Team Taz is actually really good. I think the chemistry between Will Hobbs and Ricky Starks is amazing. Swerve and Our Glory, their freaking chemistry is amazing. Of course, we already know about the Young Bucks. Their chemistry has been there since they've been little kids. So, because they're brothers. But let me tell you something. This man said the Young Bucks would be transitional champions. I didn't believe him for a damn second. I said, I think the Young Bucks are going to retain at in the triple threat match and a face off against FTR. Well, let me tell you something. I was dead wrong. Dead wrong. Swerve in Our Glory. Congratulations. You beat the Young Bucks and Team Taz to win the AEW World Tag Team titles. But for how long?
yeah, I see them having a
As much
pretty.
as I would love to see Swerve and Our Glory not being transitional champions because it would be the second time in a row it's happened, you gotta give them to FTR. FTR is the number
Yeah,
one contenders. As much as I would love to see them retain against the Briscoes, you had them lose it to the Briscoes in the 2 out of 3 falls match. And then you have them go straight after the AEW World Tag Team titles.
I can agree with that. But what I also see happening is with that,
Because this is why I'm saying it. You have Swerve turning on Keith Lee because he's already showcasing. They're already showcasing kind of at ends. That's why. That's why right then and there, see them win. I'm like, kind of like scratching my head. It's like I'm hoping there's some long term, plans for why they won, and I think this is it. You have them as tag team champions going to All Out, heading up against FTR because it makes the most sense. They're the number one contenders. You're building up, as this, mega tag team winning, multiple different championships in different promotions right now. But you have Swerve Strickland turn on Keith Lee because he, showcasing some heel sides. You're not going to turn Keith Lee heel because
no.
he's just been a babyface no matter where he's been.
Or what I could see happening that's completely out of left field, but at the same time, I am the one that said that the Young Bucks were going to be transitional champions. So I've had some pretty, but this one is entirely out of left field, but I could definitely see that happening. FTR gets a shot like ASAP on like Dynamite or something, maybe Fighter Fest. Like we,
Did they win the tag team titles and then go up against Young Bucks at All Out? I mean, that could happen too.
it's not entirely out of the question, but like what would even be like, but what would lead to FTR winning
See,
the AEW tag team titles is
this is
Swerve
why.
turning on Keith Lee.
Let me tell you something. This is why I don't like that Swerve Under Glory one, because we got robbed at the FTR and Young Bucks match at All Out. It would have made more sense to have FTR beat the Young Bucks for the World Tag Team titles, because you could have easily had Swerve turn on Keith Lee in that match and then have Young Bucks retain and then lead into All Out between Keith Lee and Swerve.
Well, if you were going to do that, then you should have had Team Taz win it. If you wanted to have new tag team champions, you should have had Team Taz
No,
do it.
no. I didn't want to have new tag team. This is why. Right here I'm gonna state my claim. You shouldn't have had new tag team champions, because right now you have a tag team title match that's gonna be what, Swerve or Glory versus FTR. Like, okay, yeah, it might be a good match, but what would have been better and selling tickets would have been FTR versus the Young Bucks. Now you have, FTR against Swerve and Glory. That's not gonna, that, yeah, people are gonna still like it and want to watch it, but that's not gonna sell tickets. I'm sorry. That's what I'm saying.
Really.
Like, if I'm Tony Khan, it'd be like, I think the Young Bucks and FTR would have made a little bit more sense than having Swerve and Glory against FTR for the World Tag Team titles. That's why I'm like, do you somehow find a way to have FTR win the tag team titles? And then the Young Bucks are like, well, we want to invoke our rematch clause? Like, that would make a hell of a lot of sense. Could happen at Fighter Fest. If they're going to have 4 weeks of it, it can happen at Fighter Fest. The FTR somehow gets involved to be like, we want a shot at those tag team titles and get it, so who knows? But then again, then you have what? 2 times in a row where it's transitional champions and they keep them for that long. So I don't know. To me, it makes absolutely no sense what they're doing right then and there with the tag team titles, other than the fact that I think eventually it's going to lead to FTR being the tag team champs. I don't know. But talk about one tag team that is going to be moving up into the ranks of tag teams. The Kings of the Black Throne beat Dark Order's Silver and Reynolds. Poor Silver and Reynolds. We talked about it multiple different times. Away from the show, that I don't think Dark Elevation should count towards the rankings whatsoever, because the only reason Alex Reynolds and John Silver are the number 4 ranked tag team is because of getting wins on Dark and Dark Elevation. That's the only reason why they're ranked right now. Then you have them go up against the House of Black on Rampage and then have them lose. Like, I think wins and losses should count on Dark and Dark Elevation. Just the ranking system shouldn't be a part of Dark and Dark Elevation at all.
Yeah.
Because, okay, cool. You have them go on there, you have them win, then they somehow get into the ranking system, you have them go on the main shows, and then you have them lose. It makes absolutely no freaking sense. The only way that this should be like getting into the ranking system is that they get in there and rack up wins on like Rampage and Dynamite, then maybe be in the ranking systems. Not, they won like 20 out of their 25 matches on Dark and Dark Elevation, now they should be ranked. No, that's not how it should be going at all. But congratulations to House of Black. Then afterwards, Miro wants a piece of, I think, more so Malachi than the actual House of Black itself. But Malachi has had no way around Miro, so I have no idea what's going to exactly happen. I would think that eventually this is going to lead into All Out between Malachi and Miro. If so, I would be okay with it. I think that they can put on a banger of a match. Is Miro just pissed that Malachi basically cost him the win at Forbidden Door? Because if so, this almost makes no sense to have them even go up against each other. But if so, I guess it's alright to have Miro and Malachi Black go up against each other. hopefully whoever wins gets some kind of opportunity somewhere down the line. Um, but either way, Jonathan Gresham and Lee Moriarty for the ROH World Heavyweight Championship. Um, man, Tiger Style, he's no laughing joke. I mean, he can hang with about anybody.
Yeah.
Uh, Jonathan Gresham, here's a big F you to you. Turn your back on Lee Moriarty in a tag team match to join up with Tully Blanchard. Probably the only get screwed over by Tully Blanchard in their crisis. So,
But the biggest thing, we saw Brian Cage
yeah,
back on an AEW,
Brian
although
Cage.
he wasn't in a match. But
It was nice to actually see him on AEW television again.
Yeah.
You know,
albeit it's technically a Ring of Honor stable that's on AEW, but
right.
regardless, he's still in AEW.
Well, fortunately to Lee Moriarty, Jonathan Gresham does beat Lee Moriarty
With that octopus stretch.
By the submission, yes, the octopus stretch to retain the ROH World Championship. And then after his talk with Tony Schiavone, Claudio Castagnoli comes out and looks to want a piece of Gresham for the title. Well, it is official, ladies and gentlemen. Jonathan Gresham will face off against Claudio Castagnoli for the ROH World Heavyweight title. And if there's any time that he can win a world title, I think it's not. I think it's done.
Yeah, he should have had it when he was in WWE.
Claudio, I really do think, is going to beat Jonathan Gresham for the world title. But then again, who the hell knows?
It'd be his first taste of world title gold. But hey, like I said, better late than never.
But then afterwards, Christopher Daniels says that Jay Lethal better watch for what he, better watch out what he says about having Samoa Joe's name in his mouth, because he might just have to beat him down himself. Thoughts? Maybe it could lead into a Christopher Daniels versus Jay Lethal match. It's not like it hasn't happened before.
I would love to see Christopher Daniels in the spotlight more in AEW, not just behind the scenes as the head of talent relations.
Right, I would too, honestly. Christopher Daniels and Jay Lethal would make for a great match. I'm pretty sure it has happened multiple times in Impact and TNA during the time, but
pretty sure that's who Christopher Daniels beat to even become the Ring of Honor World Champion as it is. Pretty sure Christopher Daniels beat Lethal, but I could be wrong.
I will say Jay Lethal and Samoa Joe are going to have a great match for the ROH Television Championship, but who's to say Christopher Daniels is going to have his hands in the pot afterwards?
Well, that's another thing, too. Who's to say that in the match, Sanjay and Satnam Singh don't get involved some way, somehow?
They could, and then Christopher Daniels might end up being out there to save Samoa Joe, too, so who knows?
Yeah, but the numbers game is still, who do they get to combat Satnam Singh?
I guess we'll find out at Death Before Dishonor. Which is definitely this Saturday. Make sure to watch it on Fight and Bleacher Report Live. I really do think that it's going to be one hell of a freaking pay-per-view. It's got a stacked card. Kind of almost brings AEW pay-per-views to shame with that kind of card, to be honest with you. So
I'd like to think it's still in a sense tied to AEW with even though it's a Ring of Honor branded pay-per-view, you still get it's still in a sense it still has that AEW
feel to it. You're right. Yeah, it does.
Which was what Super Card of Honor had, and Super Card of Honor was a very well put together show with a very great card. That's how we were able to get the first showcase of FTR and the Briscoes.
Right.
So,
of course, we're gonna.
I shouldn't say showcase, more showdown. The first showdown between FTR and the Briscoes.
Yeah, and then this time it's going to be the Briscoes that are going to win their tag team titles back. as as much as I would love to see FTR retain, I just don't think it's going to happen. But going forward, Chris Statler and Athena do beat the Renegade Twins. And then after the match, Jake Cargill and Kiera Hogan beat them down after the match. Only leading to this further speculation that eventually it's going to be Chris Statler and Athena facing off against Jake Cargill and Kiera Hogan. Who's to say it could happen next Rampage Fighter Fest? So, who knows? Liam Moriarty against Dante Martin next week on Rampage. Thoughts? Hate to say it, Liam Moriarty. It's going to be 2 weeks in a row they're going to lose. Dante Martin's definitely not going to lose to Liam Moriarty.
And even then, Dante Martin is on a wave of momentum that just cannot be contained, cannot be stopped. So
I know. I wish he could have a lot more wins under his belt in the singles.
I just feel bad for his poor brother Darius, man. He just can't catch a break with these injuries.
I know. And the thing that sucks is that I think Top Flight has a lot of potential to eventually be tag team champs.
Oh, I agree.
In AEW, but since Darius just can't stay healthy, it really hurts Dante Martin so much.
Although this
really
last one wasn't wrestling related, but even just still, that's just a very unfortunate timing because he literally just came back from that last injury, then he gets in a car accident, and he's out for another 8 to 9 months. It's what the hell, man? Sucks.
So the Gun Club come out and try to talk about why they decided to turn it back Sunday, but then the Acclaim come out, and then Billy Gunn stops them, tries to do the scissoring with Daddy Ass,
Scissor me,
and
Daddy
then he
ass.
gets super kicked, and they beat each other down. Thoughts? It's only going to lead into a match eventually. I don't know when it's going to be happening.
Safe to say that Acclaimed and the Gun Club not finished with one another.
They're definitely not. Definitely not. I really do think it's going to happen more so on Rampage than Dynamite. But
although, much like me, a lot of people are disappointed that they ended it.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, but you had to know that that was going to be the plan eventually.
Yeah.
Was that they were going to break up and feud against each other. So it makes most sense. But heading on to the main event of Rampage, the Lucha Brothers and the Private Party, which is weird. I don't think Roosh was supposed to actually try to help the Lucha Brothers win. I think he was supposed to try to help Private Party win, but fortunately, Lucha Brothers beat Private Party with the help of Roosh. I'm pretty sure Andrade's not going to be happy about that. But a little bit shorter than normal, but that's going to conclude this episode of No Final Bell. Make sure to follow us on social media at Tinkle Sports. Let us know everything that let us know how we're doing with these shows. Contact us, about everything there is about professional wrestling and any kind of other sports that are going on right now. Of course, follow our YouTube channel at Tinkle Sports Entertainment. Of course, this show and as well as Out of Turn 4 are on Facebook Watch as well. So make sure to watch on that. If you don't want to watch us on YouTube, you can watch us on Facebook Watch as well. No Final Bell is usually every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Out of Turn 4 is every Tuesday at 5. Usually a Sunday morning Tinkle at Sunday at 9. We're in hiatus right now. We will be coming back August 28th for the draft as well as, talk about cuts with preseason and stuff like that and getting ready for the regular season. So make sure to watch out for that when we do make our season premiere of, it's heading into the third season of Sunday Morning Tinkle. And also look out for Tinkle Focus with Sat Carmine, as I have no idea when it starts up, but make sure to check out our channel for that. But as always, everyone, see you in the next video. Goodbye, everyone.